Yeah, I mean, it's been so fun, like, putting this group together. Like, obviously, you know, once we get into the real heat of battle, like, that's where, you know, those relationships are really going to show of, like, how we stick together. And, you know, there's be highs, there's be lows, but so far, like, it's just been amazing. And I think we have...
Caitlin Clark snaps after Sophie Cunningham goes full beast mode against the Mystics. The whole game was a mess of dirty plays, and Sophie? Oh, she wasn't about to let the Mystics get away with it. If you thought basketball was just about scoring points, wait till you see this epic showdown of attitude, physicality, and some serious I'm not backing down energy. You won't believe how it all goes down. Let's dive in.
Excellent job just bringing everybody together and getting them on the same page. Great work.
They are already now attacking Sophie Cunningham. Oh, they're mad. The MAGA Barbies got them angry. They're cheering on violence against this basketball player. Sophie Cunningham just got through by a rookie. And here we go.
Shot too strong there from Olsen. Cunningham pulls down and here's that feistiness.
There you go.
She is fierce in the game. And I know it wasn't announced that Caitlin Clark wouldn't play until right before. But this is a preseason game where Clark is not available.
Caitlin Clark's blood pressure was probably through the roof after the Mystics decided to play like they were auditioning for the WWE, and Sophie Cunningham was right there ready to throw down, not in the least bit interested in letting the Mystics play their dirty game unchallenged. Honestly, if this was a soap opera, this moment would be where the dramatic music hits, the camera zooms in on Sophie Cunningham's intense face, and the crowd collectively sighs, "Here we go again."
It's kind of who I am. I want to pour into my team as much as possible, and I'm pretty in tune with my body. I can read a room pretty well, and so when I see we're lacking a little bit, you got to step up.
And that's Kiki Arafin, and I got to tell you, here we go with the smiling like you've done. I don't get it. This is the worst part of the WNBA. It is.
The Mystics were playing dirty. Like, I need a shower after watching this. Dirty. We're talking elbows flying, shoves, and a little too much accidental physicality. Now, you'd think the referees were going to step in, right? Wrong. Apparently in this game, the referees were like, yeah, that looks about right. At this point, I'm not even sure they knew what sport they were watching. It was like they were trying to make a pickup game at the local gym look like the NBA Finals.
She was the lead scorer of the entire game for both teams.
But Sophie Cunningham? She's not here for that. Oh no, she's not about to let the Mystics throw elbows like they're in a UFC match without retaliation. No. Sophie wasn't just going to stand there and take it. She's like the person at the party who calls out someone for spilling their drink and then makes it everyone's problem. She wasn't just playing the game. She was protecting her turf.
Fever should be allowed to just be hit and thrown to the ground or any of those things. She meant to shove her. There's no question. It was a non-basketball play, okay? That is clear. It was not within the realm of basketball. It was a shove. She was frustrated. She was upset. Or in the moment.
The fact that she even had to deal with the Mystics' play style is a travesty, because what we saw from the Mystics was textbook cheap shot energy. I mean, were they trying to send a message, or were they just trying to win? Like they'd somehow missed the memo that basketball is, you know, a sport and not a slap fight on a playground. Whatever their reasoning was, it wasn't working on Sophie. In fact, it was the opposite. The more they pushed, the more she pushed back. It's almost like watching a pit bull who's been told, don't bite, but doesn't know how to take no for an answer. And speaking of Sophie, she wasn't shy about her response. She didn't just say, no, that's not okay. She went full throttle, the type of response you get when someone is tired of seeing their team bullied and is ready to remind everyone who's boss. If Cunningham had any lingering doubts about where her loyalties truly lay, they evaporated the second the Mystics crossed that line. You could almost see the moment the switch flipped in her mind, the exact second she realized it was no longer about just playing basketball. This was personal. The Mystics had made their move, and Cunningham was having none of it. She wasn't about to let them skate by like they were in some kind of rough-and-tumble street ball league where anything went. No, this was professional, and if they wanted to play dirty, they were going to pay the price. Sophie Cunningham wasn't the type to let things slide. Far from it. If you were going to take the low road, she was more than happy to remind you that the higher road wasn't just a choice. It was a consequence. She had no problem letting the Mystics know they'd crossed a line, and now they'd have to deal with the fallout. It wasn't just about getting physical, it was about sending a message that this wasn't the type of game you could bull your way through. If they thought they could push her around and intimidate her, they were sorely mistaken.
Might want to show the Fever a little something. But at the same time, that's not that out of the ordinary for my basketball watching life or even playing life, where people fight for position, somebody shoves the other person, and that's it. As long as the game is called appropriately and it doesn't get out of hand. Same thing with the Iriafen Cunningham thing. They're fighting for the ball. Iriafen loses it a bit, throws it to the floor. She got called for the foul. It is what it is. Then you move on. So I just didn't see this as like some sort of bounty targeting. And that's what I mean by the egregious, I guess is a better word. Did she mean to shove her? Absolutely. Okay, guys? Absolutely meant to shove her. You can think of that what you want. You can process that what you want. I understand.
Cunningham's eyes burned with a fire that was impossible to ignore. Every step she took down the court radiated pure determination. You want to get dirty? She seemed to challenge, her focus unwavering. Fine, but believe me, you'll regret it. There was no room for hesitation in her movements. She wasn't about to let the Mystics get away with what they'd done. This wasn't some casual game where you could brush things off and move on. No, this was a statement. A clear reminder that messing with her team came with consequences. Sophie wasn't the type to let things slide. In a sport where emotional control was key, she'd learned that sometimes you had to take matters into your own hands. She wasn't interested in soft apologies or wishy-washy resolutions. Her resolve was stronger than that. As she powered through each play, it became apparent that this was about more than just points on the board. It was about sending a message. The Mystics had crossed a line, and Sophie Cunningham was more than ready to make them pay for it, no matter what it took.
And we don't want to see her targeted. I mean, that's weird. Sophie Cunningham says we have a target on our back. What she means by that to me isn't just like somebody's coming to physically hit me, but it's both. It's we're the team that we're saying now, you know, we're the team everybody's talking about. We're the team other teams want to prove something against. Sometimes that can go a little bit too far. Obviously, you don't want to see that happen with Caitlin Clark, but that's the overarching point where you've got vets there. You've got tough players there who aren't going to allow that to happen.
But honestly, let's give Sophie some credit here. What she did wasn't just about defending herself, it was about defending the whole team. Her whole persona screamed team player in a way that made the Mystics look like they were just there for a paycheck. If Sophie had a motto, it would be, don't start no stuff, won't be no stuff. But once the Mystics started throwing haymakers, Sophie was ready to fire back. Harder, faster, and with more energy than an espresso shot at 3 a.m. Now let's talk about the actual dirty play, because it wasn't subtle. This wasn't just accidental pushing or fouls where the refs missed it. No. This was an all-out assault on basketball decency. It's like they woke up and said, let's try and make this look like hockey but without the skates. I mean, did the Mystics think they were playing for the NFL? I'm just waiting for them to throw in a few offensive holding penalties and start tackling each other into the stands.
Crazy moment that happened within this really good game. Kiki Arafin getting a flagrant foul, and then also Brittany Sykes getting a flagrant foul, all on the same player.
But instead of looking at it like a cheap shot, Cunningham stepped up like she had something to prove. As the game progressed, Sophie clearly wasn't having it. Every time someone from the Mystics tried to play dirty, Sophie had an answer. And it wasn't the kind of answer you wanted to hear. It was the kind of response that made you think, okay, this might just turn into a fight now. Sophie wasn't looking for a win by the clock. She was looking for a win by whatever means necessary. And if that meant showing the Mystics that their tactics were no match for her gritty determination, then so be it. This is where it gets interesting, though. Sophie Cunningham wasn't the only one firing back. Caitlin Clark, the queen of cool, was in on it too. Watching the two of them react to the Mystics' antics was like watching a masterclass in patience, followed by finally snapping and putting someone in their place. I mean, Caitlin wasn't about to let the Mystics drag the game down into gutterball territory. She was like, nope, not today. She didn't need to say a word to make it clear, though. Her moves on the court screamed, I'm tired of this nonsense. Let's not forget the best part about Sophie Cunningham's response. Sophie wasn't just throwing her body into the fray for the sake of it. No, she was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. She wasn't merely reacting to the Mystics' antics. She was orchestrating every move with the precision of a grandmaster who knows exactly what's going on behind the scenes. The Mystics, bless their hearts, were probably banking on her getting frustrated, losing her focus, and falling into their trap of mind games. You know the type, trying to get under your skin, provoke a reaction, and hope that you get tangled up in their chaotic mess. But Sophie? She wasn't about to play their little game. Instead, she stayed laser-focused, cool as a cucumber, and completely unbothered by their dirty tricks. While the Mystics were busy trying to rattle her with their petty tactics, Sophie kept on executing her plan like she was running the show. Because, let's face it, she was. Every time they tried to push her buttons, she responded with a comeback that didn't just shut them down, it highlighted how amateur their efforts really were. It was like watching someone navigate a minefield with one hand tied behind their back. She was playing with purpose, not emotion.
Spicy Sophie Cunningham, you could call her, because she was out there, she was feisty, she was fiery, and all that. Which target on our backs? Obviously, the Fever, the most hyped team, the most talked about team, and now a team that has some protection within, right? Some support within, some toughness within, which bodes well for once Caitlin Clark is back on the floor, because you're now surrounding her with the talent. Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston were there before, but the toughness as well.
With each calculated move, she reminded them that they couldn't mess with her without facing the consequences. They might have been trying to shake her, but Sophie Cunningham wasn't just taking it in stride. She was sending a loud, clear message. The narrative was hers, and they were just characters in her story. Let's talk about the aftermath here. The whole game was a war of attrition, and by the time the final buzzer sounded, it was clear who had won the moral victory. Sophie and Caitlin were practically sending telepathic messages to each other, silently agreeing that if the Mystics weren't going to play by the rules, they sure as hell weren't going to sit there and take it like passive bystanders. They went on the offensive in ways that were more satisfying than watching a meme get reposted 100 times. No one, and I mean no one, was going to make them back down. Not while Sophie Cunningham was around to hold the line.
Things like that, right? You can get physical, defensively. You're stopping your man, you're getting in front of him, not letting them get by you, you're bumping into them, making sure they feel your presence. Things like that. That is physicality that I like to see in basketball. Like, I don't necessarily want to see people body slamming each other. Body slamming each other all over the court is unnecessary. Come on, man. We don't need...
Now, we could go on and on about the basic stats, the score, who scored the most points, how many rebounds someone grabbed. But let's be real. That's all just surface-level stuff. Anyone can read the box score and tell you who won on paper. But the real story here, the real headline, it's about Sophie Cunningham. In a game that could have easily spiraled out of control with tempers flaring and fouls flying, Sophie didn't just play. She took control. She wasn't going to let anyone dictate the pace, the style, or the energy of this game. Not on her watch. You know how some players just seem to let the chaos take over or get rattled by a few hard fouls or trash talking? Sophie isn't one of those players. She didn't sit back and let her opponents run wild, pushing boundaries and trying to turn the court into some kind of WWE ring. No, Sophie wasn't there for that. She came to play. She wasn't going to let the other team's antics become the story.
To be honest, my original thought was like, oh, heck yeah, like we're about to go win a championship. Like that's exactly where my mind went. And like I said, it's all about the people, it's about the culture. I learned a lot out there, but now I'm ready to move on to something bigger, something better, and have a lot of really great players around me to, you know, seriously go win a championship.
By the time the game ended, the Mystics had probably forgotten why they even started throwing elbows in the first place. It didn't matter anymore. They'd stepped into Sophie Cunningham's world, and she wasn't going to let them bully her or anyone else into submission. This wasn't just about basketball. It was about drawing a line in the sand and saying, I'll be damned if you think you can walk all over me. And let's face it, if there's one thing we all know about Sophie Cunningham, it's that she's going to fight for her team, her respect, and every inch of that court. So, to the Mystics and anyone else thinking they can play like a gang of alley cats, just know that Sophie's not backing down anytime soon.